T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Coach on Fire Radio.
I am the tiger, dancing through the fire. I am the champion, and you're gonna hear me roar.
You're listening to the Confidence Alchemist Radio Show with your host, the Confidence Alchemist himself, Keith Blakemore Noble. To find out more, visit theconfidencealchemist.com, but not before you've listened to this episode of the Confidence Alchemist Radio Show.
Hello, dear listener. Welcome once again to another episode of the Confidence Alchemist Radio Show with me, the Confidence Alchemist, Keith Blakemore Noble. And today we're going to be talking all about the science of change. And when I say we, I mean just you and me, dear listener. Today's episode is just you and me. We're going to be talking all about change. Why are we talking about change? Well, as the Confidence Alchemist, everything that I do is about helping people to make change. Heck, even the name of my company reflects that. The company's called Be Your Change. That's what it's all about, change. Why? Well, because when you change your mind, you quite literally change your life. However, when we talk about change, very often, there's a couple of questions people will come up with. How can we change? Or, perhaps more common, is change even possible? Is it even possible for us to change? Well, to that second one, I'd say not only is it possible for us to change, it's kind of impossible for us not to change. When you think about it, the only constant in life is change. Paradoxically, change is the only constant in life. The cells that make up your body today are not the same cells that made up your body a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. Your stomach lining changes every, 7 or 21 days, something like that. Your skin is constantly changing. The neurons that make up your brain, they are constantly changing. Every part of us is changing, being replaced, replenished. The weather's always changing, different every day, yeah? The seasons change. Everything is changing. Change is constant. So we are always changing. Everything is always changing. So that kind of then leads on to the next question. Well, if everything's changing, can we have any control over change? Or how can we have conscious control over change? Because if we're going to change, wouldn't it be neat if we could kind of control the sort of change that we're getting? And that's what we're going to be looking at today with the science of change. We're going to be looking at how we can effect our own change, how we can take control of our change. Now, change in any form can be scary at times. It can be very scary because it's facing the unknown. It's moving away from our what's called our comfort zone, which is where we kind of sit naturally, where things are comfortable, hence the name, comfort zone. But it doesn't have to be difficult. And I've developed a 6-step framework for change. My 6-step framework, 6-step model for change, however you want to call it. And later on in today's episode, I'm gonna share that 6-step framework with you. It's what I use anytime I seek to make changes for myself. I've used it countless times with clients, many clients over many years. Always using this 6-step model for change to help make the kind of positive, deliberate change that you want to make. So that's what we're going to look at later on in today's episode. But before we do that, before we can actually look at the 6-step model of change, we're going to kind of take a step back, as it were, before we can leap forward. And we've got to kind of take a look at why we think the way that we think, basically. Because, as you might guess, the model of change involves aspects of how we think, etc., etc. So before we look at how we can change the way we think, change the results that we get, we kind of need to look at why we think the way that we think, why we think the things that we think, why we see the world the way that we do, how our view of the world is formed. So that's what we're going to take a look at in the first. We're going to have a look at that. And just to kind of change things up a little bit, I'm also going to throw in a little bit of music in today's episode as well. Just see how that goes down, basically. Let me know what you think of it, Dave. Do you like the new format? Do you like the music? It's kind of the aim of the music is to give you some space to kind of allow your mind to mull over the things that we've been covering through this show. I'd love to know what you think about it. Please do get in touch with me. You can do that if you're on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/The Confidence Alchemist. Like the page while you're there. Why not? You're there. You might as well like it, yeah. And pop me a comment on there. What you thought of the show. Any comments, questions, suggestions, thoughts that you had. Or if you prefer, you can always go to theconfidencealchemist.com and you can contact me through there, or you connect with me on Facebook, whatever. Find me on LinkedIn, Keith Blakemore Noble on LinkedIn. Let me know what you think there. So let's start diving in. Why do we think the way that we think? This all comes down to how we perceive the world. It comes down to our model of the world, what we call our model of the world. Because you see, the reality is we don't perceive the world the way that it is. We perceive the world the way that we are. What? What are you on about? We don't perceive the world the way it is. We perceive the world the way we are. Now, what the heck do I mean by that? Well, imagine this. Suppose 3 people go to see the same film in the same cinema, the same showing. You ask each of those people independently what they thought of the film. Was the film good? Was it bad? What did they think of the plot? All these sorts of things. Chances are you're going to get different reactions, right? One person might absolutely love the film. Another person might absolutely hate the film. The third person might be kind of in the middle somewhere. Some bits they liked, some they weren't so keen on. They've all seen the same film, and they've come up with different views of it. How what's going on there? Or same with music. Have you ever had this? A friend said to you, "Oh God, you got to listen to this song. This new song by my favorite band in the world. It is awesome. It's amazing. You got to listen to this. You have to listen to it." So, of course, being a good friend, you listen to the song, and you're kind of wondering what all the fuss is about. Yeah. You've been there, right? Or maybe you've been on the other side of that. There's this track which you absolutely love, and you've got to share it with your friends, and you play it to some of them, and they're going, "Yeah, that's nice." And they clearly don't like, what's going on there? How can you have the same track, the same film, the same experiences, same whatever? How can people have different views of them? Well, it's because we all think differently, because we all view the world differently. We all have different models of the world. You see, we have all of this information coming into us, bombarding all of our senses. I'm going to say our 5 senses. There is a scientific argument that we have many, many, many more senses than that. I'm not talking about this mystical 6th sense stuff. I'm talking about the fact that we got so many more than just the 5 normal: taste, touch, sight, sound, smell. We got things like sense of balance, pressure, all these sorts of things. But we're just going to talk about the main 5 senses. So we got all of this information about the world coming in through our 5 senses, right? Now, we can't consciously process all of that. That's just total overwhelm. Absolute, complete, total overwhelm. Much of that information is going to be kind of irrelevant to us at any given time anyway, yeah? You're a passenger in a car and the driver is driving you wherever. You've got information coming into you through your senses about all the different cars that are going past. You kind of don't really care about those, right? I mean, they're totally irrelevant to you, so you kind of don't really pay attention to them, but that information is still coming in, so it gets filtered out. The driver, on the other hand, yeah, you want to be sure that the driver knows exactly what's going on the road, because they got to navigate it, but you don't have to, right? So even though you're sat in the same car on the same journey, you're going to have different perceptions of it, different experiences of it, a different view of the journey. And so it is with everything that happens for us in life. Our senses receiving all this information. It's been said we're bombarded by 2 million bits of information every second. 2 million bits of information every second. That's a heck of a lot coming through all those sensors. We cannot handle all of that. We can't process all that consciously. We don't even need to. Most of take for example now, I'm going to take a guess here that you're probably sat down, okay? Sat on a chair, you might be lying down or whatever. Until I brought your attention to it, you probably were not aware of the pressure of whatever you're sitting or lying on. Yeah? If you're sat in a seat, you're probably not aware, or well, you are now, but you probably weren't aware of the pressure of the chair on your buttocks and the back of your legs, right? You are aware of it now because I've drawn your attention to it, but you weren't aware of that a few minutes ago. But that information was still coming in. You kind of see where I'm going with this? We get all bombarded by all of this information. There's a part of our brain, part of our mind that filters everything, works out what's going to be important, what do we need to be aware of in that moment consciously, of what do we need to be aware, and what can we eliminate. So these are our filters, and we may talk about all these different filters at some other point. We've kind of touched on them a little bit in the past. I have absolutely no doubt we're gonna touch on these again in the future because they are very important. They're kind of fundamental to all of this. But we got lots and lots and lots of different filters, and some of these filters you've got like beliefs, things which you hold to be true, your beliefs. If something doesn't fit in with your beliefs, doesn't fit with your beliefs, it's kind of not generally gonna filter through. We've got values. Values. We can have a whole program just about values. In fact, we may well do that. Would that be of interest? Let me know. Again, connect with me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on the Confidence Alchemist website itself. Let me know what you think. Would you be interested in an in-depth discussion about values and the change that we can make by working with values? That is a really powerful thing. And we're going to touch a little bit on that a bit later on today as well. But values, things that are important to you. If something is important to you, you're going to kind of notice it. If something is not important to you, you're not really going to notice it. So in the example of the driver and the passenger in the car, the driver is going to be noticing what's happening on the road. They're going to notice the car, 4 cars in front, has suddenly put their brakes on. They're going to be aware of that because that's important for them to know. Because that affects whether the rest of the cars in front are going to stop. That affects whether they may have to prepare to take evasive action if necessary, if there's a crash or whatever. You as the passenger, you're probably blissfully unaware. In fact, you're not even aware that there are 6 cars in front, let alone what those cars are doing, because it's not important to you at that point. Values have a much greater part to play in our lives than just that. Money is a great one. If money is something that's important to you, then you're going to notice opportunities for accruing money. On the other hand, if money is something that is of no importance to you, it just does not feature in my values. In fact, you may find the whole concept of money repulsive and offensive. In that case, you're not really going to spot opportunities to make money because, as far as your unconscious is concerned, money, we don't like that. So here's a thing coming in that could make us money, and we don't care about that. We won't even bring that to our conscious. So values are another great way of filtering things out. As I say, we've got beliefs, we've got values, we've got the kind of language that we use. I don't mean French, German, English, Spanish, Swahili, whatever. I mean the type of language that we use, the vocabulary we use. That has a great effect on information coming in. We've got things called meta programs, which are kind of like programmable switches about just, like, are we introverted? Are we extroverted? Are we in time or through time? And again, these things we can take a look at in another episode if you're interested. But we've got all of these sorts of things that filter out information that comes through. And we all have different filters. That's the point. We all have different filters. We've got different beliefs. We've been brought up in different ways. We've experienced the world in different ways. We've seen different things. I've seen things, man. I've seen things you wouldn't understand. Yeah, we experienced life in different ways. And that's why we all have different